it's just more of the same, I think, Andrew, for the government, knocking nice into the problems that are engulfing all nations of the United Kingdom and not actually coming up with solutions that will help people on their day-to-day living expenses. So, of course, it's Scottish questions in particular is just cheap stunts every week by Minister Lamont. I don't think he really has a really grasp of the impact that Westminster policies are having in the lives of the people of Scotland. So it's always frustrating for me, Scotland questions, particularly when you see so many MPs from across the chamber who are reading pre-prepared scripts in relation to Scotland but don't really have any clue or understanding of the country or of the needs of the country as well. So I think that's quite evident for myself.
And Ian Murray had a bit of a go at Stephen Flynn in it. He said he thinks he's First Minister already. What did you make of that?
I did actually miss the quip, but I did see it on Twitter, now X, of course. But they're obviously worried about Stephen, aren't they? I think they're right to be worried about Stephen. I think he's made his feelings clear on who should lead the party and indeed the country next. That won't be Stephen.
Yeah.
But as I say, I think our opposition in Scotland in particular, but here as well, you notice it when you'll notice it yourself. When Stephen speaks, the chamber listens. And I think today with his questions again on the potential of British military involvement in the Middle East is so concerning for everybody across the United Kingdom. So I think his questioning today was absolutely on the money in terms of how serious a situation this could potentially be. But yeah, in relation to your question, it's clear that our opponents, I think Mr Flynn strikes fear into our opponents, and I think that's only a good thing for us going forward.
Alistair Jack also had a bit of a quip, maybe poking a bit of fun as well, saying that SNP MPs should be polishing up their CVs. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, exactly that. Nothing but tedious quips from a man, by the way, in a position, Scotland's man in the cabinet. I think he should be focused far more on fixing the problems that his government are inflicting on the people of Scotland instead of making stupid political points.
Yeah, and Keir Starmer during Prime Minister's questions went on national insurance. What did you make of his performance overall?
More of the same. Bland. I don't really know what to say about Mr Starmer. I don't think he cuts through in Scotland or with the people of Scotland on the doorsteps that I'm talking about. There's no very much praise for him or indeed his policies, and we know that the Labour Party in Scotland, they don't actually have any policy, certainly going into this general election. I don't think Labour can offer the people of Scotland anything. In fact, we might see some retrospective of policies like prescription charges, for example, Andrew, which we're seeing being increased here again in England. Of course, free to the point of need for everybody in Scotland. So I'd be worried about policies such like that when we see Keir Starmer at the helm. I think one of the biggest points I noticed was the slapdown he got from the Prime Minister in relation to his new MP who was sat just beside him. And for me, and I think for the people of Scotland, it will be so evident how easy it is for a Conservative MP to slip effortlessly into the Labour Party, because we've heard it said before that there is not much separating Labour from the Tories, whether it be economic policy, whether it be their immigration policy, whether it's the contempt they hold Scotland and Scotland's Parliament and government in. So I think that's clear once again, and I'd just like to re-emphasise that point, how easy it is for Tory MPs to naturally just sit within the Labour Party, and they're welcomed in with open arms, by the way, as well. I would love to see that Tory MP's voting record and see how much it compares with that of Labour MPs, Andrew.
And it's been an eventful week for your party, to say the least. Obviously, all going on in Scotland. What have you made? Obviously, Hamza Yousaf resigned, ended the Butte House Agreement. What have you made of all of that?
It's been unedifying to watch, Andrew, as a spectator of that, and whether I'm a representative, I'm still very much a spectator of what's happening all across the United Kingdom, and we see hypocrisy countless times. We're getting told now that we shouldn't just select a First Minister from the Labour Party, no less. yet in Wales, the Labour Party have just done the very same thing with Vaughan and their new First Minister.
What do you think of the candidates? I know no one's properly come forward, but it looks like John Swinney and Kate Forbes are probably the two contenders.
I think that's looking like a certainty at the minute. The democratic structures of our party is that any member who gets 100 votes from 20 branches can put themselves forward. I'm a Democrat, Andrew. If we have to have a challenge, then so be it. Or if we have to have a contest, then so be it. I think that the room and the space for decent debate should be made if that is the case. If we have one candidate coming forward, then that remains to be seen, because we won't know until nominations close. In the grand scheme of things, it's been quite a difficult period for not only us, but obviously the Greens as well. So I think it's incumbent that SNP members choose the leader of our party and not anybody else from any other party, as it seems to be the case. In relation to your question about Humza, I would like to obviously thank him for his service to the country. I've not known Humza for very long. I'm relatively new as a 2014 intake into the party. I can't fault the guy in terms of how he worked with us as MPs, how his door was always open for discussion, and I wish him and his family the very best as they continue in politics.
So would you quite like, so you're kind of saying, would you prefer for members to get a vote rather than just someone to be selected? Obviously that requires more than one candidate to come forward as well.
I mean, and we're not at that stage yet to make that decision. What I will say is, when we had the last leadership contest, there was some of the debate that was quite unedifying. I would hope that we would avoid that again. It's important that we as a party find unity and togetherness, because at the end of the day, we know what's important. And what's important is that Scotland is properly represented in this place, Andrew, come the next general election. And it's no a Tory in number 10. I'll never lose sleep the Tories getting booted out of number 10, Andrew. But the people of Scotland need protected from Westminster governments, and that's why it's incumbent, I believe, that we send again a strong cohort of SNP MPs back to Westminster at the general election to ensure that we keep the Labour Party to the left, because we've seen the lurch to the right, the constant. People in Scotland won't know, but Keir Starmer has purged any left-wing socialist-leaning MP from his party. One or two remain. The rest of them have been stopped from standing at the next general election, and I really worry about the policy decisions and how they will interact on the people of Scotland. So it's incumbent that I think that we as the SNP get our house in order and go forward united, together, and into the general election.
And just finally, a lot of folk are, as you said, very impressed by Stephen Flynn here. Opposition people fear him a bit. Do you think it's a bit of a shame that he can't really put himself forward? He's stuck down here rather than being in Holyrood, where perhaps he would be a contender, and a lot of people think he would sweep up as well.
I think that's Stephen's decision to make, but you're wrong in the sense Stephen could put himself forward. Now, he couldn't become the First Minister of Scotland, of course, but he could become the leader of the SNP, should he so choose, to put himself forward, and then he could nominate if he was successful. There's a lot of hypotheticals here. I think Stephen's made the case quite clear that the First Minister and the leader of our party should be in Holyrood. And I think that's the right decision. I agree with that position. And I think Stephen has said himself recently, he's 35 years of age. He is a political puppy in terms of this place. And I think he's got a long and illustrious career ahead of him. And at this point, for him and his family, he's took the decision that it's not the right time for him. And I can only respect that decision.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Stephen.